Hi, I'm Justin Meese, and this video is brought to you by 10X Training, a division of Element Arms, LLC. Two of the most important factors to always consider whenever handling a firearm are the muzzle direction and the trigger finger. You should always keep your muzzle pointed in a safe direction. No matter what type of handling you're doing with the firearm, you always keep the muzzle pointed away from anything that can be harmed or destroyed. You should always keep your trigger finger outside of the trigger guard until you are ready to shoot. Before you're ready to shoot, you should never have a trigger finger already placed on the trigger. Whether you're doing any type of handling, reloading, holstering, or moving around with the gun, you should never have your finger on the trigger until you are engaging a target. One of the first fundamentals that we have to understand and implement to successfully engage a target with a pistol is grip. Grip is about hold control. To have good hold control means to be as stable as possible with the end of the gun, the muzzle of the gun, in relation to the target. If we extend our firearm towards our target, there's going to be a certain amount of drift in the muzzle from left to right, up and down. The greater that drift, the greater our arc of movement. The arc of movement is like a cone that goes out from the barrel of the pistol. The farther out the arc goes, the bigger the cone is. The closer the target, the smaller the cone is. Our effort, our goal in grip is to maintain as much stability as possible to reduce that arc of movement as best as we can. We can never get rid of it completely, but we can make it very, very slight, very unnoticeable with more practice, more technique, more training. Grip is essential because it helps us to control recoil. Each gun will have some type of recoil. Based on the caliber and the size and weight of the gun itself, the recoil will vary from model to model, but our grip is how we control recoil. Now, on a right-handed shooter, my right hand is my strong hand. When I grip with my right hand, my goal is to get contact with as much of the frame as possible. Notice my trigger finger is not engaged the trigger. It is not resting on the trigger. It's not even in the trigger guard. It's outside on the top along the frame where it should be until I'm ready to shoot. What we want to do is have as high a grip as possible with the handgun. We want our hand to be as high as we can without impeding the progress of the slide. We don't want to get our hand up here where we'll get pinched or cut by the slide. That can easily happen if our hand is too high. Usually in a semi-automatic pistol, we're going to have some type of beaver tail here where our hand will fit perfectly in there. We can get it as high as possible. The line of recoil will be in line with the chamber in the muzzle. It'll push back in this area, so we want to get our hand as close to that line as possible so that we can have the best control that we can. We use a high grip stacked thumb position. What we do with our weak or support hand is what we would call the left hand on a right-handed shooter. Is come along this side of the grip. There's a gap that my fingers and my thumb leave on this side of the frame. I want as much of this support hand as possible to touch that frame, to make contact. So the pad of my thumb will make contact right with the grip of the pistol. My thumb will go along the bottom side of the slide. I don't have it sticking up here where it's going to impede progress of the slide or get caught. I have it down along the slide, resting on the frame. My thumbs are stacked. They're pointed toward my target. They're not sticking up in the air. They're not crossed all over each other. They're pointed toward the target. Now, this is in reference to a semi-automatic pistol. If we were shooting a revolver, it would look a little bit differently. But for today's purposes, we're shooting a semi-automatic pistol, and each grip should be about the same with each different model of pistol. Now, some pistols today are coming in very small sizes, where it is virtually impossible, especially for some shooters, to get all contact with the pistol frame. You've got to improvise on some of these small micro or subcompact type pistols, things that are so small you can't get all your fingers on the grip. Each one is going to take a little variation in the grip, but our goal is always to get as much contact as possible on this frame, and we want 360 degrees of contact, not just one side or the other, bottom or the top. We want 360 degrees around. The strong hand will give us front pressure and rear pressure. It gives us half of the grip we need so that we can control it from the front and back. The support hand gives us the side to side pressure so we can control that side and this side. With those two hands together, we have 360 degrees of contact and control. This will be very evident if you decide to start shooting one-handed. If you try to shoot strong hand only or weak hand only, you'll notice how much you lose stability by taking one hand or the other off of the firearm. Two hands, 360 degrees pressure is as good as it gets as far as contact and control. The high grip, stacked thumb grip is exactly what we're looking for. Trigger finger again, not in the trigger guard, not resting on the trigger, along the frame. It only takes a split second to move your trigger finger down when you're getting ready to engage your target. So you always keep that finger outside of the trigger guard. You want all the contact you can possibly have. You don't want your finger sticking up here, down here. You don't want a cup underneath the pistol. You want to have contact with that frame, thumbs pointed towards your target and stacked together, tightly, but not too tightly gripping. Now you don't want to squeeze the gun so tight that you have a white-knuckled situation where you squeeze all the blood out of your hands. We don't need that tight of a grip. It's just going to wear our hands out, make us fatigued, get us exhausted and unstable quickly. We also don't want to keep the gun so loose that it's going to fall out of our hands when we shoot it. We want a good middle-of-the-road grip, strong enough to keep control of the gun, but not so strong that we're hurting our hands or wearing ourselves out trying to hold the gun to death, squeezing it so that it can't get away. If we have the proper grip control with good contact and 360 degrees of pressure, we're not going to have to worry about that gun flying out of our hands. A proper grip looks exactly like this. From the left side, stacked thumbs pointed toward my target, fingers wrapped around my strong hand. And from the other side, trigger finger out, grip around the frame. High grip, as high as I can get it on this particular handgun. Both sides again. This will give me the most control that I can have on this firearm. And again, different firearms are going to vary a little bit on the grip. You have to kind of figure it out on the small, compact, subcompact, and micro type pistols that they have nowadays. Many of them will have a grip on the bottom of a magazine. They'll have an extended magazine with a grip. That will allow you to get more contact with the frame. If you don't have that in there, a lot of times the frame will be so small that your hand will actually hang over the bottom. You can't get your whole hand on there. I've seen shooters with long fingers that had a hard time getting their fingers to make contact because there's not enough gun there. When you're out there looking for a firearm, especially for self-defense, find one that's big enough for you to have a proper grip with, something that you can handle comfortably and effectively. Don't get something just because it's cool, just because it's small, just because it's the newest fad, because you think you can hide it. Find that balance between grip control and concealability.